Welcome to CYF Spotlight, presented by the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families. The Commission is a joint effort between the City of Farmington Hills and the City of Farmington. Its purpose is to foster a healthier community by focusing on our most precious resources, our children and our families. The Commission is made up of dedicated volunteers and community activists from all walks of life. Working together with other groups and agencies in the community, the Commission creates programs with one goal: to encourage a supportive environment where children, youth, and families are happy, healthy, educated, and safe, and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. The Commission is hosting this show to bring our focus and activities to the community. We welcome your input and support. You can learn more about our Commission at our website, www.cyf.us. Today, children spend half as much time outdoors as they did 20 years ago. In a typical week, only 6% of children between the ages of 9 and 13 play outside on their own. Welcome to the CYF Spotlight. On today's show, we are going to talk about the No Child Left Indoors initiative in Michigan. My guests are Ray Rustum from the Department of Natural Resources and Brian Farmer from the Farmington Hills Special Services Department. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. So what is this initiative, the Michigan No Child Left Inside? Tell me about that.
Well, the Michigan No Child Left Inside Coalition got started about 2006, but it really got started before that. This whole concept of connecting to the outdoors is kind of a concept that a lot of us who worked in the industry or worked in the area and have kind of felt about and known about for years. I mean, Brian's been working as an outdoor recreation specialist. I've done programming for the department for wildlife education and getting kids outdoors for a number of years. And a lot of times you find out with these things that it takes a little catalyst or something to really get the movement going.
Wow.
And that kind of happened in 2005. By an author who wrote for family magazines and things like that, Richard Louv, and he published a book called Last Child in the Woods.
Okay.
And it really put together all these things that we knew as specialists,
right.
And put them into a book and put them and linked them up with facts and research that had been done, and it really catalyzed and actually started a national movement of trying to reconnect kids with nature and the outdoors. And so in Michigan, after this book came out, there were a number of us that started talking, say, hey, we got to start doing something and try to pull ourselves together here in Michigan. So it was kind of the click or the turn on for us to get pulled together the Michigan No Child Left Inside Coalition in the state.
Okay. So Ray, tell me in a nutshell what this author was presenting as the problem and then the solution. What were the problems he was seeing?
Essentially is that kids are not spending, and you gave some statistics, and there's a lot of shocking statistics out there about the disconnection between kids, and not only kids, but adults and stuff like that with nature. And when you look at you go back to the history of humans, and you don't have to go very far back, and we were tied to the land.
Absolutely.
I mean, our lives, early 19th century, that was, you were outdoors, no matter who you were probably outdoors half your time.
Right. And you lived according to the seasons, and
exactly.
And our health was different because of it, wasn't it?
There's some interesting things that they're starting to pick up because of that.
Really?
So,
really, would you care to enlighten us?
Sure. One of the things, some of the things that we're looking, when you're looking at things like obesity, we all talk about, and people put out things about the national epidemic of obesity and what's going on with children's obesity. Kids are not playing as much, and the outdoors is an excellent place. When you take a look at the amount of energy kids burn off in the outdoors,
sure.
It's an excellent place for them to get out and play and have that hour or two of natural play that people talk about. It's creativity. It is taking a look at it's building a community or building structure with the kids and making decision making. And there's all kinds of research that shows the benefits of kids playing outdoors.
Sure.
And one of the neat ones is that I'm looking at is even in sports. When I was growing up, when we wanted to have a baseball team or we wanted to play football, you grabbed every kid in the neighborhood and you went out to the vacant lot.
Right.
In my case, it was the back field,
right.
Up in a suburban area.
Okay.
And you set up the field, you set up the rules. You played the game. You made the decisions when you had disputes. Those are things that kids had to do as a group.
Sure.
And you played multi years. You had kids that were just starting out in baseball or football. The kids who might have been just going into high school. So you had that wide range. So you had kids mentoring kids how to play baseball. So all these interactions that kids had to do.
Right.
You don't find that anymore.
That's true. That's true. And I think there are many factors that are behind this. I mean, it seems like our society is faster paced than ever. Everybody's over-programmed. And as we discussed before the show, as the mom of 4 kids, I get nervous letting them be outside unsupervised because of all the God forbids and who knows who's out there. It wasn't like that when we were kids. Are there other reasons that you think kids are not outside as much as they used to be?
I would say you're right on there, stranger danger and the whole, and again, things have always happened in the past, and now you've got more resources for technology, the media, and hearing what's going on out there. So we, like in the recreation world, we do, in terms of programming, we try to tell people that you do need a balance, and it comes down to the parents and what your choice is. Do you want to get your kid involved in 5 different programs 5 days a week, or do you want to say, you could pick 1 or 2, but after that, go in the backyard, play on the swing set. You don't have to go far. You don't have to go down the block
field
to play, but you still could go in your own backyard or your front yard if you don't feel like that is, a safe spot.
Absolutely.
But it's really getting outdoors and finding that there's another a local person, Liz Goodenow, which The Secret Spaces of Childhood, another book.
Oh, wow.
And she said everybody has their own spot, and everybody can think back, where was that spot when you were growing up that you just remember so well that it helped develop you.
Sure.
And without kids getting outdoors and having that special spot outdoors, they're losing a lot.
Right. Now, also, I'm sure we're going to get into this as we move our conversation forward, but are there things that families can do together, not just let the kids go out and play, but how about take a walk in the evening or go for a hike together? I mean, we have lots of trails, lots of opportunities around here,
well, that's
right?
exactly it. Is that one of the issues I think is that one of the things you look at now is that we have a generation of parents. We've gotten down so far, we have a generation of parents who aren't familiar with the outdoors that are raising the next generation of kids. And so they don't have that link. That link was always broken for them. And they don't know where to go or how to get started in this stuff. And so that's why you've got programs like Farmington Hills or Oakland County Parks or the state park system here on Clinton Metro Parks that you've got down here in southeast Michigan.
Sure.
They're great places to start. You mentioned the trails. We've got a big initiative going on with the department right now. And when you take a look at the trail systems, everything from the local community trails all the way up to the state linear trails, to the North Country Trail, which is a national trail, and some of these other trails that run through Michigan, and all the opportunities for hiking, anything, hiking, biking, horseback riding, ATV riding, whatever you do, there's a trail that you can find someplace in Michigan. That those opportunities are there, but again, one of the things we're trying to do is how do we get that and make it easy for people to get the information?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. So what does the coalition do to motivate families to get moving and get outside?
I'll say when you asked earlier, what is the coalition? The good news is it's all these groups that are providing all these activities are coming together now. Where before people would say, well, they're doing that over there. Why aren't you doing it? Now we're all talking at the table saying, how do we get this word out that all these great things are going on?
Great.
And it's a partnership amongst over 100, how many organizations involved?
200 organizations and individuals.
All in the state. That's beautiful. It's a great coming together of these organizations.
So one way we're working on getting the word out is we've developed a website. It's mincli.org.
mincli.org. Okay.
Right, and that will eventually be developed where a lot more resources are shared on that, as well as Ray can speak to the several marketing pieces to let people know about things going on outside.
Yeah, we also have a Facebook page.
Beautiful.
That if you can search Michigan No Child Left Inside on Facebook, and our coalition will come up. We try to post out things that are coming up, events that are coming up, everything from if Farmington Hills has some kind of program, we'll put those out there. One I just posted is that at the end of this month or next couple of days or tonight, I can't remember. But we have a blue moon coming up.
Okay.
And I don't know how many people know what a blue moon is.
I don't. My kids would like that.
But it's the moon's not really blue, but it's a time every season you typically have 3 full moons.
Okay.
Every once in a while you have a 4th moon in a season.
Oh.
And the 3rd moon is called a blue moon.
Oh, very nice.
And so it's just a kind of a historical thing, that fun thing that kids go out and say, hey, it only happens like once every 2.7 to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's nothing that's happens a lot.
Sure.
We posted in early August, we had the Perseid meteor shower,
Okay.
which is an excellent meteor shower to go out. So you can see a lot of meteors. Unfortunately, in most of Michigan that night we had clouds.
Oh,
yeah.
And so didn't see, but those kind of opportunities, we try to put that information out there. I've posted articles and information about how, talked about your backyard, making the backyard. There's a lot of things are going on about what you can do just in your backyard. And something as simple as having some pieces of lumber and maybe a couple old blankets stored in a box for your kids. To take that stuff out there, they can build their fort, they can build, just having those kind of things that kids can use their imagination, which is one of the things that this really that the outdoors does, is that one of the things they found out in some of the research is that kids are more creative when they play outside.
Interesting, interesting. So that is another question I had, was what are the benefits of being outdoors? And I understand that exploration is important and creative play both for physical, mental development, emotional well-being, as well as we talked about keeping healthy weights. And of course we all have vitamin D deficiencies because everybody's inside all the time. What are some of the other benefits of being outside?
Well, you've hit on you've hit on some pretty good ones there that we're looking at right now. Some of the other research that when you take a look at the research, one of the most interesting ones that I found out recently that they're starting to take a good look at is things like autoimmune diseases and asthma and all these kinds of diseases. Again, when you take a look at the human history, when we were growing up and when we were kids, when we were babies, even young kids, we played outside.
Sure. We touched the dirt. There are bacteria in the dirt, and as you're developing your immune system, there are bacteria. There are all kinds of just normal bacteria there in the environment that you get exposed to. Right.
And those they're taking a look at some of the research, looking at that, and says, hey, what they're finding out is some of those normal bacteria that we were exposed to as young kids help build our immunity.
Ah, okay.
And if you raise a child in a totally antibacterial world,
right.
It impacts their ability to build those immune system.
Wow.
So now they're looking at the potential links between this disconnect between us and nature, and some of these things we're starting to see.
Now, I understand that there are also improved attention spans and better test scores when kids play outside a lot. That's part of the research we came across. That's interesting. What's the correlation there?
Right. Well, what it is that when they take kids out, and this is one of the things we suggest work on with schools, and try and push teachers and suggest to teachers that they take their kids out outdoors as part of their learning environment.
Okay.
A couple of things. Some of the tests that they've shown is just attention spans. When kids can see green space.
They're more inspired.
They respond. It eases them. It reduces stress.
That makes sense.
For kids.
Yeah.
Some of the things that they found out with is ADHD. That kids, if you get them out for a little bit and expose them to the outdoors, the symptoms of ADHD are reduced.
Wow.
And then if you incorporate the outdoors in learning, what it does is makes it experiential for those kids rather than just doing an activity at their desk.
Right.
You take them out and you incorporate that activity in the outdoors. The retention is better.
Sure.
Because it's linked to something that is not so abstract as sitting at your desk and looking at whatever you're doing or building whatever you're doing.
Sure.
You take it outside. Do something as simple as a writing experience. Put them outside and let them write outside where they're using their senses to experience what they're writing about. And all those things, the learning experiences are much more, they're just more powerful when you do that type of thing.
Interesting.
And that's in the same kind of thing, improving test scores. If you talk about wetlands in the classroom, you could see pictures and look, but when you go out there and touch and feel and actually experience it,
right.
and you go on that field trip, it makes a big difference and the kids get it. Where
You
if you don't do it, they may never get it.
That's true. That's true. So tell me how the City of Farmington Hills is involved in the coalition. What are some things that you're doing?
Well, I'll tell you how we got involved.
Okay.
We actually asked some kids. The Mayor's Youth Council said, we started hearing just like everybody else, like kids aren't getting outdoors enough. You're seeing how long they're in front of the TV each day.
Right.
And so we went to the kids and said, you know, what can we do for you guys to get you outdoors? Like, what's fun out there? What excites you? And they're like, I don't know, like, because they grew up not going outside that much.
Right.
And so one girl mentioned, how about camping out? And we thought, all right, camp out. After starting to think, okay, let's do a camp out here in Farmington Hills, we found out there's the Great American Backyard Camp Out that had just started that year. And so we said, well, let's try that. And we did it, and 500 people came out and camped in the park, and people were camping in their own backyards. And we found out with the DNR all the different resources they have offered with all the campgrounds in the state of Michigan. So we said, okay, let's get these kids started in camping. If it's a family that's never camped before, they're close to home. And what we had heard from some parents, like, we've done that before. We don't want to camp. And I said, what about your kids? Like, have they done it? Oh, yeah. So they start to think, like, hey, yeah, since I've experienced, it wasn't for me, why don't slight your kids? You need to get your kids out there.
Sure. So
we started there. And then as we started to do more programs, we found out about the No Child Left Inside Coalition in 2009. And at about the same time, Liz Goodenow, which is a member of the Spicer family and the whole Heritage Park grounds, contacted us right about the same time and said, hey, there's this video I'd like you to see, Where Do the Children Play? And that was another great resource that opened a lot of people's eyes, saying here's what it looks like in a suburban community, a rural community, an urban community, and how people aren't getting outside and how it's impacting kids. So it was all timing in like March 2009, and then that's when we sat at the table of the coalition when they were planning their first summit that year. And that's we became involved and been involved ever since. Now we're members of the steering committee and are trying to keep our community connected with all that's going on, and we've developed a lot of great partnerships because of it.
That's great.
Our nature center now has really exploded with programs, and people are going there. It's every day you're going to see someone in that nature center, and a lot more happening outdoor related.
That's beautiful.
Events, same thing. We do a lot of family events, the camp out. We do a bunch of fires like related to the event, big campfires. People come to these events never making a s'more before, never cooking a marshmallow. Adults, because as you know, it's a culturally diverse community.
Sure.
So they said, well, what do I do? And we show them, well, you put the marshmallow on there and you cook it. And people just don't know because they're not getting outside enough. So it helps them to really, to get more comfortable with it through an event, and then they start to do it on their own, go on the trails and get more involved on during their unstructured time.
Right, and just sort of explore and see where it takes them. So where are we headed with this? What's the vision for this coalition down the road? What would we like to see have happen here?
Well, one of the things we came across early on and made a decision about is that this is nothing, reconnecting kids outdoors. We're not going to be able to mandate this. This is nothing you can't say at the national level or state level or whatever. You will get your kids outdoors. So this has really got to happen at the community level through recreation programs like Farmington Hills has, or parents who get interested in doing this, or organizations that are some of our, like Michigan Audubon or some of these other conservation organizations, providing opportunities for people. So that's kind of where our vision is, that we get all these entities and people involved in working on this and putting these things out, and work through other groups like the Michigan Alliance for Environmental Outdoor Education, which was kind of one of the primary people that helped get this kicked off, and their big interest is environmental education and outdoor education. So just working through those kind of groups and introducing people. What I'd like to see, I guess our vision is that we have communities and people that are seeking to get outdoors, looking for ways to get outdoors, and trying to and reconnecting their kids. One of the stories that I came across in this whole thing was one when they had a blackout. I think it was in Los Angeles, and they started getting the community centers and things, getting all kinds of these calls about what was something up in the sky, and they discovered what these people were looking at was the Milky Way.
Oh my gosh!
That in these urban areas, because of the lights and things like that, They never saw the Milky Way. And when you think about that, you think about the city, how many people live in cities when they look up in the sky because of the night light, the lights from the city, don't experience those things. And again, it's another one of those cultural things that when you look back, the sky was the storybook for a lot of those cultures.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And how that's being missed.
Yes.
So you want to get those back and try to get people back to that, looking at the outdoors and nature that way.
Now you said you have a website and a Facebook page, and you have some marketing initiatives that you're going to be putting out there to try to educate people about the importance.
Right. We've developed some flyers that we've put out there. We've also developed some ads that people can, if you go to the website, there's some ads out there you can pick up, and anybody who has a little publication there, they're free to use those ads.
Okay.
We're looking at, we have a calendar on our website that we're trying to populate with things that are going on, that kind of the outdoor things to get people moving that direction.
Things happening in Farmington and Farmington Hills,
right,
for example.
And like we just did a first time a day on the Capitol lawn, which was in Lansing, which a lot of communities brought their camps in. And once the kids get exposed to a lot of these different activities, and the staff that run these camps, they learn about some new things they could do outdoor related.
Wow.
And again, that markets of more what you can do. In Farmington Hills, we do a thing called Nature Incorporated, where our Nature Center staff visits a camp once a week and does an activity like pond dipping, where they go out with the nets and get some, or bugs off different branches, and just it's amazing what you can find in nature. And that trains the staff on how to do it, because a lot of them haven't been brought up in the outdoors, and it also teaches the kids something new, and they get really excited about doing it again and again.
Yeah.
So where do they learn to get outdoors? Not as much anymore at home, because unless the parents are getting them outdoors.
Right.
Not much in the school, because there's less field trips, but when they're coming to camps and events, our job is to how do we expose them and help them to get that exposure.
One of the neat things about this too is that we talk about the technology. We mentioned that the technology was one of the things that's distracting kids.
Right.
But when you look at this, technology is here. It's going to be here. So one of the things we're looking at is, okay, we're realizing that technology is here, and kids are going to be carrying their iPhones, they're going to be carrying iPads, and carrying all these types of devices.
Right.
How do we get them to utilize those things? Well, there are now apps out there. There are astronomy apps that you can use to help you identify constellations. There are birding apps. There are tree identification apps. So these things are starting to be developed.
Yeah.
So they actually now those people and those kids who are growing up utilizing this technology, now their technology is relevant in the outdoors too.
Interesting.
And so it really is trying to say, okay, these are things we know are happening.
Right.
Now, how do we connect this up with the outdoors and make those kinds of connections? So it's kind of those kind of things too.
Now, are you working with schools at all just to get more awareness out there, sending the flyers to any PTAs or anything like that?
When we go to do speaking engagements, where we have programs and things like that, or events, we hand the flyers out. We're working with, like I said, we work with the Michigan Alliance for Environmental Outdoor Education. Department of Natural Resources has a couple of programs. One's called Project Wild, Project Learning Tree, and these are programs where using things about wildlife or about forest, in the case of Project Learning Tree, teachers can utilize materials and learn about forest, and they're tied to the curriculum guidelines that teachers have to meet.
Okay.
And so we've got those kind of things. One really cool one is a new one that came out that recently came out, was called Growing Up Wild. It was an extension of Project Wild. This is an early learners one.
Okay.
Pre-K thing. A really nice little thing. And we started working with Head Start with that program, and we have a lot of interest from Head Start on utilizing those kind of things. And again, it's connecting kids with wildlife, but it also has a component that says, if you're going to do that, here's a suggestion how to get these kids outdoors and do the same thing.
That's great. That's wonderful.
And then at the same time, there's the different, like they do attend different nations. We have in Farmington Hills, Detroit Public Schools, Livonia, all over the place are coming to nature centers or parks.
That's great.
And maybe one thing, there's really three parts of the whole vision: the MORE movement, the No Child Left Cycle. Maybe you could speak on what they're working on there for schools.
Yeah, the MORE movement really is taking, ours is just kind of the reconnection.
Okay.
And you've got, as I said, Michigan Alliance for Environmental Outdoor Education, which is looking at the environmental ed piece and the school piece.
Sure.
MORE movement is is a movement that's looking as kind of how do we do, there's some national legislation that's been proposed to provide funding. And what the question is what do we want kids, what is our goal for kids? And so they're working on what is kind of defining what is environmental literacy, or what does a kid need to be, what does that mean to people? What do we see as the vision for that?
Sure.
And they're kind of working on that to be able to incorporate that and come up with some ways to achieve that goal. So we've got kind of three neat pieces that we got going here in the state.
That's great. Oh, I'm excited to hear this. And after this, I'm going to go get my kids outside.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for being here today. This is a wonderful initiative, and I hope it has huge reach and really gets all of us back outdoors. So thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for watching the CYF Spotlight.